This is the third time in my life I've been at a weight I'm not comfortable with. And instead of going through extremes again, I'm doing it differently. So, the first time growing up, I was a healthy weight, I would say. I didn't overeat. I mean, parents control the food, right? We weren't a family that had a lot of unhealthy, like super unhealthy snacks. Like, yes, we had, fruit snacks like the Scooby Doo fruit snacks and whatnot. But we didn't have candy hiding in our cupboard. Like we didn't get that type of stuff. We could only have pop and ice cream on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Throughout the week we weren't allowed that, although I would go to the neighbor's house and get it from them because I was just so addicted to sugar. But yeah, growing up, we ate very healthy. And my parents would just cook very healthy food. We did have McDonald's and that kind of stuff every once in a while. It was not a common reoccurrence. We were not fast food kids. We were not a fast food family like that, where we would have it every single day. And so, age 10, I was diagnosed with a bunch of mental health disorders. And I was put on 2 to 3 different medications at a time from age 10 to 18. And I think because of all the side effects of the medication and how crappy I felt, I stayed at a very healthy weight. Like I'm 5'4". So I was, I think, 110 pounds all throughout like high school. And I stayed at that weight. Didn't really work out. I mean, I did Taekwondo for 4 years. I think I started it when I was maybe like eighth grade into high school, something like that. And then I had to stop doing it because just the side effects of the medications. I just felt so sick all the time. Stomach aches, headaches, nausea. It just didn't really feel worth it to keep pushing my body in those ways when I felt really sick. So after that, I just didn't work out. I mean, every once in a while I'd go inline skating if it's nice out or biking or whatnot as a kid, but I wasn't really that active. And so, that doesn't help. But then, yeah, 18, I stopped taking the medications because I was just so sick of feeling sick all the time. The medication wasn't working. Not taking the medication didn't work either, but that's besides the point. So I stopped taking the medication at 18. I slowly started to gain weight. Early 20s, I was in college. I went to community college at 18. So I was in college and I'm like, dang, I really want to take an ADHD medication again because school is just so hard. And so I decided to go back on ADHD medication. I was at 140 pounds at this point in time, early 20s. And I started taking this medication that's also used for people who have eating disorders. And it really curbed my appetite where I dropped a lot of weight fast, like very quickly. I dropped weight is very surprising. It's like before I knew it, I'm like, oh dang, I'm like I was down to like 112 pounds. I stayed about 112 to 115 pounds on average. And sometimes I would overeat, but I wasn't overeating to the point of like I was gaining all of this weight. So I could basically eat whatever I want, whenever I wanted, and I just didn't gain all that weight back. And then late 20s, I went off the medication. I also had like severe depression, and the doctor's like, you really need to go on an antidepressant. And I was like, absolutely not, because I don't want to deal with the side effects. So I ended up stopped taking the medication because I just didn't want to deal with the doctors anymore. And I slowly started to eat more food and binge on food, and I slowly started to gain the weight back. Because I just never learned how to portion control. If someone is feeding you when you're a kid, typically you won't overeat if you're not going to go in the cupboards. But if you're an adult and you're just feeding yourself, you can eat whatever you want. You can get DoorDash. I didn't have DoorDash back then. I personally didn't use it, but I can go get fast food whenever I want. Get whatever food, whenever I want, and just binge on food. And so I would do that, and I slowly started to gain the weight back. This time, I ended up at 155 pounds, the heaviest I had ever been, which was scary. I also forgot to mention that when I was taking the ADHD medication, I was going rock climbing 3 times a week. So I was like very like muscular as well. And so once I stopped taking the medication, I wasn't going rock climbing as often. I would say maybe 2 times a week I would go. I just wasn't as active. Probably didn't help that I was gaining weight and felt very insecure about my body as well. Yeah, I got up to 155 pounds. I feel like the turning moment too was kind of when the doctor's like, you could lose 5 pounds. And I'm thinking 5 pounds only, like, dang, I need to lose a lot more. But when I was 30, I still had depression, anxiety, and a lot of other mental health issues. And I'm like, dang, I really want to fix the depression. So I decided to, I had been doing a lot of research that a plant-based diet could actually cure that, possibly cure it for some people. And so I decided to go on a raw food plant-based diet for 30 days to see how I would feel. And I mean, I felt a lot better after the 30 days, so I kept with it, but I also lost quite a bit of weight. I think I lost like 10 pounds within the first 30 days. And I decided to keep going with it, not because I was losing weight, but because I just mentally, I felt so much better. I didn't have the depression, anxiety, or the other mental health issue that I had. And so it's like, dang, like I'm cured. Of course I'm going to keep up with this. So I kept up with it. I lost even more weight. I ended up doing a juice cleanse. I actually ended up a little underweight, which was scary at one point. And then, because I was doing a raw food plant-based diet, very hard to keep up with that, especially trying to do predominantly raw, just because I would have cravings, right? So before the juice cleanse, I would have all these cravings, like I want to eat cooked food, and I would go and eat certain cooked foods. And then after the juice cleanse, I stayed predominantly raw for, I think, like a year or something. Yeah, over a year. And then, I was doing really well on it. I was a weight that I felt really good at. And then later on, I decided I want to add more cooked foods back into my diet because I would love to travel. And I just think it would make it so hard to travel if I'm only eating raw, predominantly raw. I would have to make all my own foods. I've seen that a lot of people in the raw food community, they try and they go to a raw vegan gourmet restaurant and they get sick because they don't add salt to their food. They don't add herbs to their food. They don't add spices to their food. Their body isn't used to it. When you take something out and you just randomly add it back in, like, yeah, of course it's going to make you sick. So that's what I was dealing with. I would go to like a restaurant and eat something and then I'd just feel sick and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I just wanted to be able to go to a restaurant and enjoy the food. I also decided that I wanted to move from Minnesota to Texas. And I knew there would be a lot of plant-based restaurants around here, especially in Austin. And so I figured I'm just going to add more cooked foods back into my diet and not do predominantly raw anymore because it's just so inconvenient. And so I added a lot more cooked food back into my diet, and that opened up the amount of food that I could have. And I ended up gaining a lot more weight, and now I'm back to 155 pounds. Although last time I weighed myself, I was at like 151 because I've been doing things differently this time. Instead of focusing on, because I don't take ADHD medication anymore, I would never go back to do that. I do not like how it made me feel. But I've never actually done calorie counting to the extent of I'm going to be in a calorie deficit. And to be honest, I was very ignorant about losing weight. I didn't realize that the only true way to actually lose weight is to be in a calorie deficit. Like, I understood it a little bit, but I didn't understand that it was going to be a struggle. Because before, when I lost weight, it wasn't a struggle because I just naturally did it. I just naturally wasn't very hungry for those foods because the one time I was on ADHD medication and the other time I was eating raw food. The thing about eating raw food plant-based is there's a lot of liquids in the foods, right? It's not very dense. And so it's easier to lose weight even if you're eating a large quantity of food, but you're having a lot of liquids, so your body is just flushing out those liquids. Like, I could eat a whole watermelon, and that would be maybe like 1,000 calories, more or less, depending on the size of the watermelon. And then I would be hungry for more after because my food just digest the foods so quickly because my body would just digest fruit very, very quickly, especially, or also vegetables as well because they're so low calorie. So I'd eat like gosh, I used to eat so much. I had like these huge mangoes. They were like this big, this long, maybe this round. I had 6 or 7 of them in one sitting for breakfast. It would take me like an hour to eat that, and then I'd be hungry again. That was quite frustrating, to be hungry repeatedly as well. Because I think the key is like, okay, I got to get myself like right now where I'm not actually hungry. Because if I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. I don't want to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. Sometimes I feel so hungry that I feel nauseous, and that's not good. So I have been using Fitbit. I had a Fitbit Charge 2 for the longest time, and that's what I was using. I finally downloaded Lose It, the Lose It app for losing weight, because it's specifically tied to losing weight. And so I put in my height, my weight, my gender, because like, it depends if you're male or female, right? Of how much weight you should be or how much weight you should weigh, right? And then I chose the diet because I'm on a plant-based diet. I can't have animal product. Even if I wasn't vegan, I wouldn't go back to it because like depression, anxiety, and the other issues, right? But I also can't have gluten, wheat, so I feel like I'm kind of limited to what I can eat, but like whatever. So I put that in as my diet base. Okay, I'm on a plant-based diet. And then let me pull this up. So then I have to choose a budget. I chose the lowest budget. So for me, that's 1,495 calories for my budget for the day. But also when I like scroll down, I can see like it suggests something for breakfast or lunch and dinner, like the calories that I could be having, right? Which is really nice because Fitbit doesn't have that. It doesn't say, oh, well, maybe you should have this amount of calories for breakfast, this amount of calories for lunch, dinner, and a snack. You just put in whatever you want, right? And I like how when I enter things, it will say like, right now it says under 1,495. If I add something for breakfast, it will say how many calories I have left for the day that I can have, which is so convenient and nice to just see those real numbers. And then there's also, I can add like workouts that I do, water, I can like weigh myself. There's like this health thing. I don't weigh myself every single day because with water weight, you weigh a little bit more. And then there's also like steps, sleep, and there's other things, but there's also, I also do intermittent fasting. I did a lot of intermittent fasting when I was on a raw food plant-based diet, and I really liked it. Typically, I work 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., so I'll have that be my eating window. But I also figured, so before I was doing a fruit meal for breakfast, because I learned in the raw food world, the raw food plant-based world, that because you've been fasting all night, right, when you're sleeping, you're technically fasting because you're not eating anything. And so the best thing for you to do is to have something that has a lot of liquid in it. So I think my mindset was really stuck in that. Instead of doing what's best for my body, I'm like, oh, well, what's best for my goals? I was doing what I learned in the raw food plant-based world. And I was having a fruit meal for breakfast, like a smoothie. But one day I'm like, wait a minute, what if I have my lunch for breakfast? Because I used to be that type of person that would have like pizza for breakfast because I don't really care. What if I go back to that, not having pizza for breakfast, but having my lunch for breakfast instead and my breakfast for lunch instead? So I'm having my high protein, high calorie meal for breakfast. And I bought protein powder to put into my breakfast. So for breakfast, I'm having, let me go back to one of the days that I did a high protein. So a typical breakfast would be pumpkin seed protein powder, and that has 30 grams of protein in it. 1 serving of peanut butter powder, which is, 6 grams of protein. Oh, sorry. Okay, so for my typical breakfast, I would have pumpkin seed protein powder, which is 20 grams of protein. I would also add peanut butter powder, which is 6 grams of protein. I would add this Violife feta cheese because it tastes good to me, which that doesn't have any protein actually. I would add tofu. I would take a whole like tofu thing, the extra firm organic tofu, and just have half of that, which is 22.4 grams of protein. And then I would do half a cup of rice, jasmine white rice, so that is 6 grams of protein. I would do 1 cup of broccoli florets, which is 3 grams of protein. And all of that would be 58.4 grams of protein. And then calories is 835 calories for breakfast alone. And so at that point, like I'm full most of the day, right? I wouldn't be hungry and I would have that at 6 a.m. Let's say 6 a.m. is my breakfast. I would have that at 6 a.m. high protein. I'm not hungry again until like 12 p.m. Sometimes even like 1:30 p.m. That is great because I used to have an issue where I'm hungry all the time because I'm not setting myself up for success. And then for lunch, I was having this, it's Pattaya Foods Swirl Smoothie Bowl. It's like 190 calories, but 1 gram of protein, not that much protein. At that point, I just want something sweet to eat. And then I'll have like a large Honeycrisp apple. And that altogether would be 1.6 grams of protein. At that point, I'm not really caring about the protein, but I'm just having a snack later on. So just setting myself up for success. I was making my own smoothies. Unfortunately, I'm a super taster, and so sweet things are extra sweet to me, sour things are extra sour to me, and bitter things are extra bitter to me. So if I don't have certain foods, like if I'm having chocolate every single day, chocolate tastes great. I take a break in having chocolate. Now it tastes bitter. And so I feel like I'm also really limited on the foods I can eat, so I'm doing the best I can. But yeah, just setting myself up for success where I'm having my highest protein meal for breakfast. And I've been logging my weight. And let's see. So I started at 155 pounds. And right now I'm down to 151.8 pounds. So I've been doing really well. I'm in a calorie deficit, but I'm not feeling like I'm starving. I'm not feeling like, oh my gosh, my stomach hurts because I'm so hungry, or I feel nauseous because I'm so hungry. So I'm just doing things differently this time. And I really hope it sticks because I'm not the type of person who's going to go and take, was it GLP-1 or whatever, the weight loss drug. I see all these people who are having these horrible side effects, right? And then the other point is like, you have to keep taking it. You never truly learn how to count calories and be in a calorie deficit and feel comfortable with that. You're just relying on this pharmaceutical to do the work for you. Your taste buds change. You're eating differently. You're eating less. And then you have to keep taking a low enough dose so you can keep taking it basically the rest of your life, right? In order to keep the weight off. That's how I felt with the ADHD medication. It's like it was curbing my appetite and I wasn't hungry enough to keep overeating to the point where I was gaining all this weight, but you have to keep taking the pharmaceutical. Once you stop taking it, you go back to eating the way you were eating before because you didn't learn anything while taking those pharmaceuticals. It's weird because I've thought, oh, maybe I should cheat. I feel like that's in a form cheating because you have to keep taking the pharmaceutical forever to keep the weight off. I felt like, using the ADHD medication was also cheating. I wasn't taking that to lose weight. I was taking the ADHD medication for my ADHD, but I'm just like, I don't want to go back on pharmaceuticals. I wouldn't say I'm anti-pharmaceuticals, but I'm very specific about my pharmaceuticals. Like, I don't want to take it unless I have to. So we'll see about tracking this and see how well I do. But I'm really liking the Lose It app because it's specifically created for people to lose weight versus Fitbit just wasn't. I also do Pilates 3 times a week. I go to Pilates 3 times a week. I do have a walking pad. My goal was to walk 10,000 steps a day. Then it was to walk 15,000 steps a day. I lowered it to 5,000 steps a day, and I have not been keeping up with it. I have a floor to sit to stand desk that I use. I actually completely removed the walking pad because I just haven't been using it. I bought a balance board. Hopefully that will help some. I mean, moving around during the day is a good thing, but like it's hard. It's like when I walk on the walking pad and I work my 8 hours, it's really hard to control the mouse while I'm working, while I'm walking on the walking pad. So I have to go down to walking 1 mile an hour or 1.5 miles an hour. And it's just really inconvenient. And then I end up just not walking altogether. So I'm just going to focus on floor sitting in this. This is a camping chair that I'm currently sitting in because I don't want to buy an office chair. I feel like I just get too used to that and I sit in it all day, and then it's bad to be sitting all day, especially when you have an office desk. So waiting on the balance board, hopefully that will put some more movement in my day. I live in a 400 square foot unit, so I honestly don't get that many steps during the day. Let me see if I can see. I think I get an average of, let's see, I get less than 300 steps a day just walking around here. The bathroom is like right over there. It's not that far to walk. The kitchen is right behind me. So it's just, I don't have to walk far to get to anything. My bed is right there because I sleep in a hammock. So I don't have to walk far to get anywhere, which is kind of unfortunate. The last place I lived with was a 1,000 square foot unit, and I walked a lot more. Let me see if I can find an average day where I walked. I would say at least 1,500 steps when I lived in my 1,000 square foot unit, which is a lot better than less than 300 steps a day. I try to walk outside. It's been a little colder. Unfortunately, I have vibratory urticaria, so I'm allergic to vibrations, and there's really nothing I can do about it. Like, I did move here from Minnesota for a reason, because I wanted warmer weather, especially in the winter, and so I could walk around more. But when it gets cold out, the vibration allergy is a lot worse. It's basically like just any vibrations, to be honest. Like, I can drive a car and I don't have an issue. I wouldn't be able to go on a motorcycle or a go-kart. I would have an allergic reaction on that. I'm not able to run. I can run a little bit. Like, if I go further, it's going to be an issue. But it's like itching, pain, and just having a hard time breathing. I also have cold urticaria, so when it gets cold out, those two together, the cold urticaria with the vibratory urticaria, makes it a lot worse, which is why I have the walking pad so I can walk inside, but I'm just not motivated to do that. But when it's warmer out, I do get maybe like 5,000 steps a day, but on the colder days, it's hard. But yeah, I do Pilates 3 times a week, so I do get out of the house. So it's just down to calorie counting and sticking with this app, the Lose It app, and just trying to lose weight that way, and just being consistent in the foods that I eat, and having my lunch for breakfast and doing higher calories. I am a little concerned with the super taster thing. I've been sometimes eating food where I'll make my whole breakfast and I only eat half of it. And it's like, shoot, now I'm just like wasting food. But yeah, maybe I'll have to do like an update on this in 3 months or 6 months to see where this had led. But at this point, I am losing weight, and I hope to stick with that.